Hello, good morning and welcome to the newspaper show with me, Varun Hiriman. Before we go any further this morning, let's remind you that the newspapers are completely safe. All personnel at the presses are using the required safety gear, PPE, they're well sanitized, so there really is no risk with getting a newspaper delivered to your house. And if you are interested, please go to wantmypaper.com where you can explore the various arrangements to get your newspaper delivered, whether it be the Times of India, the Economic Times or the Bombay Times. And moving on to the top 10 stories of this morning, we have Suzuki expecting a bigger knock to the India engine. So that's something coming out of the auto sphere. Banks may need to raise 20 to 50 billion in the next 2 years. So we saw Kotak yesterday, possible Axis Bank as well. So it seems that the banks are going to be preparing for additional fundraisers as the financial climate deteriorates. BDR move on Remdesevir clone irks Gilead. We're going to bring you more on that later. The government to fast-track 4 lakh crore of 4G spectrum sale. So that's something coming out of the telco sector. GIC Oppenheimer among investors in Kotak QIP. So the Kotak QIP launched yesterday, and now we're starting to get a whiff of the names that were participating in that issue. India-China spat, Trump offers to mediate. So we saw Mr. Trump's tweet where he stepped forward and said he's willing to mediate between us and China. We'll see if that's really required or not. Japan approves a $1.1 trillion relief package. So that's what's keeping the US markets, the Asian markets really upbeat. And it's a strong global cue which should keep our markets fairly in fervor as well. $1.1 trillion or 20% of Japan GDP. Now the US revokes Hong Kong special status. That is again self-explanatory. Trump threatens to shut social media companies down. That's a new threat coming out of the US President's office. And the Locust attack has put Punjab on alert. We've all been seeing the videos. It's quite a tremendous attack over there. We also heard that it was slowly creeping into Maharashtra. Now that we're done with the top 10 stories of this morning, let's get you the top 5 corporate stories as well. Carmakers line up in new launches. So that's in the paper today. Please do take a look. IT companies seek relief in labor laws. So that's another interesting development. NTPC in a race to buy Rinfra's Delhi DISCOMS. So that's an asset sale information that we'll be tracking. ED probe shows Yes Bank loan to DHFL was diverted. Now this is obviously almost a felony kind of charge coming in. It shows misallocation or poor capital allocation and misappropriation of funds. So it'll be an important story. And Ola Electric buys e-bike maker Etergo. So as Ola is looking to diversify into electric vehicles, its first acquisition in the space would be e-bike maker Etergo. Please take a look at that story as well. Now the top 5 market stories, which are going to be obviously for all our market participants, are the fact that the Sensex got a 1,000-point jolt yesterday, and the global cues are really what's supporting this. Banks, mutual funds rejig 70,000 crore in securitized paper. So that's another key story today as well. Sun Pharma disappoints in Q4 and the stock may underperform. So it actually didn't come in line with street estimates on revenue and margin. So a bit of a disappointment there. RBI to stop the sale of 7.75% of taxable bonds. The bond market, we all know the various issues that have been lingering there. This is a key development coming out of there. Please do have a read. And e-voting soon to wind up 6 Franklin debt plans. So, Franklin was in the news earlier for similar kind of instances of them needing to wind up a few schemes. It seems the e-voting for that will now be commenced. Now that we're done with all the major headlines from the corporate market and top 10 stories as well, let's get Utkarsh on the line because it seems Suzuki Motor Corp's top boss, Osamu Suzuki, expects the impact of COVID in India to be a lot more long drawn out than initially expected. Utkarsh, good morning. Welcome to the show. Walk us through it.
Exactly. So, Suzuki chairman has gone ahead and spoken that, earlier the expectations that by festive season and after a temporary phase, we can see the impact of COVID getting out and the demand coming back. But that's not something which is coming out from these conversations is what we have been told. And obviously, this will be a more long-drawn process, and this is something which the Suzuki chairman has said. And if you look at Suzuki's dependence on the Indian market now, if you look at the major amount of revenue which comes in from the for Suzuki globally is also from the Indian market. and Maruti being Maruti Suzuki being somebody who's having at this point of time more than 50% of the market share in the Indian market. Chairman believes that this will be much more of a long-drawn process when it comes to Suzuki and when it comes to the market recovering at this point of time.
All right, Utkarsh, thanks for that. Let's also stay with you because we also want to discuss the launches that the automakers have lined up. 36 product launches, it seems, as they seek to revive consumer sentiment. What's your sense on this story?
In fact, it's interesting, Varun, that, almost every day we end up seeing a new form of digital press conferences we are attending. Of course, we miss obviously being there at the park at the conference and touching the metal and feeling the same. But a lot of car makers now believe that it is the only way to excite the market. And this has been something which car makers have been thinking for a very long time earlier as well, that they have to, in the end of the day, to get market back, to get excitement back, it's product launches which will end up getting the excitement back in the market, and that is what the car makers now are looking at. So new refreshes. Also remember that we have had the BS6 refreshes earlier. So a lot of them have also started coming in the market now. So a lot of new refreshes, a lot of new vehicles which are coming into the market. So clearly this is one strategy by the corporate India and by Motown specifically to go ahead and rev up or excite the market, as we say it.
All right, Utkarsh, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Always a pleasure chatting with you. Just so you guys know, Utkarsh's stories were on the front page of the Economic Times, so please do take a look. Quite a key development coming in from Suzuki. Now, let's get you a little Q&A with a desperate need for stimulus. At best, it will take 4 years to regain the past peak, and at the worst, it may take 6 years. Unless the government, like in many other countries, offers industry-specific packages for the auto industry. These include a relaxation in GST from 28% to 18% and a scrappage policy which is long awaited. This was a quote coming in from the MD of Bosch, Sumitra Bhattacharya. Let's move forward a little bit to the telco sector this morning. The government is speeding up plans to auction 4G spectrum worth more than 4 lakh crore rupees, said a senior government official. An inter-ministerial note is being drafted and likely to be presented to the cabinet as early as next month, so we'll be bringing you a lot more on this. Another quite a key development this morning is that coming out of SBI. SBI being the leading PSU franchise is also the first to transmit rates. I believe every time there's a stimulus announcement, they always are the first to follow with a cut in their MCLR rate, which is effectively the rate at which they lend at. So again, this has been cut by around 40 bips. And this time it's on the deposits, And this is the highest return offered by this bank is around 5.4% on deposits over 5 years. So on bulk deposits, SBI has reduced returns by 0.5 percentage point and leading the pack as far as transmission is concerned. All right. My colleague Vivek is now with us, and he's going to talk about the fact that the state-run NTPC has entered the race to acquire Reliance Infrastructure's Delhi DISCOM assets. Good morning, Vivek. Welcome to the show. Take it away.
Good morning, Varun. Varun, so if you remember over the weekend, we actually had this particular piece of news coming in that the Anil Ambani-led Reliance Group was looking to divest the 51% stake that it has in 2 of the Delhi power distribution businesses. So earlier, the people or the companies in the race were Italy-based, a very big company, Enel Group, Greenco, as well as Torrent Power were set to be in the race. Well, what the Economic Times today is reporting, and it's extremely interesting given the fact that NTPC is basically a generation company. What they are saying is that NTPC too is quite keen to join in the race. Now remember, NTPC at this point of time can bid in the race because earlier they had created a joint platform along with Power Grid in order for them to go ahead and make a combined entity where they would have both generation as well as distribution businesses. So it'll be interesting to see how and how this particular bidding does pan out. Now remember, Anil Ambani had also gone ahead and divested the Mumbai distribution business to the Adani Group for an EV of close to 18,000 crore rupees. So another thing to watch out for would be the valuation. KPMG has been mandated to find buyers for this particular 51% stake in both of the DISCOMS, that is BSES Rajdhani Power as well as BSES Yamuna Power. Now, NTPC is also saying that it will be keen on participating in this particular process as long as the process is fair and transparent and the bidding is done in an open manner. Very interesting development, very important development as far as the entire power distribution space is concerned.
All right, Vivek, thanks for joining us this morning and getting us that very important update, which is also in the paper, so do have a read. Switching gears a bit to Reliance General Insurance. Lenders of Reliance General Insurance are in talks with global funds and strategic investors to sell a 100% stake in the insurance company. Now, sources have it that the investment bank JM Financial has been appointed as a lead manager to execute the transaction and will be looking to divest at the total valuation of around 4,000 crores. So perhaps this again has something to do with the fact that Reliance has been on a massive capital raise, whether it be disposing off of non-core assets or non-core stake, like a huge stake they have in Asian Paints. Raising money right now and deleveraging seems to be of utmost importance. But moving forward, Pankaj is now with us, and he's going to walk us through the BDR Pharma seeking drug controllers approval to manufacture and sell generic version of Remdesevir in India. Good morning, Pankaj. Welcome to the show. What does this story mean? You track the pharma space closely, so please walk us through it.
So, Varun, you will keep getting more such news flow coming in with different companies trying to go ahead and, make some licensing arranging because whenever you get any sort of drug news regarding COVID-19, what is happening on the therapeutic treatment, how things are moving ahead, on all of these fronts, you will require an excessively fast sort of a move as far as the production is concerned. And, when you talk about Gilead and, the performance that they have shown, they have worked almost with every company here into India. Almost 90% of the companies would have someday or the other worked with them over a period of time. And that's why, people do have a relation with them. And that's why they are approaching them that, if they have spare capacity, they would definitely be one of the producers as and when the drug is needed. Earlier, we had Cipla, which did this. Then, we also had Jubilant Life Sciences, which made this a move where they went for an in-licensing agreement, and now you're getting that BDR Pharmaceutical. The Mumbai-based company has sought a drug controller's approval to manufacture and sell generic version of Remdesivir without entering into the pact with Gilead. Now, this, is prompting a patent holder for the medicine to flag off the concern with the government. But let's see what happens. But more such news flow regarding this drug, in-licensing agreement, non-in-licensing agreement would continue regarding various therapeutic treatment for various drugs that time and again come in.
All right, Pankaj, thanks so much for walking us through that. So there you have it. Do expect more such news flow to keep coming in as far as this drug is concerned. But switching gears a little bit, Poonam is now with us as the Indian IT industry has asked the state governments to extend labour law relaxations to the services industry, arguing that it would help the 191 billion sector. Good morning, Poonam. Welcome to the show. Take it away. Okay, it seems that Poonam's just having some technical difficulties. She'll be with us shortly. So basically, this industry is chiefly reliant on global customers to cope with the severe economic downturn caused by the COVID-19 virus outbreak, almost like every other industry. And we're all going to the government in some form or another and asking for relief or relaxation on certain norms. Whether it be the chemical sector, the IT sector, the banking sector, all across the board, the government is really expected to step in. Now, on the IT-specific labour relief, what we're asking for is states to extend labour law relaxations to services, allow surplus staff layoffs, flexible staff shifts as well for the IT companies. NASSCOM wants the states to allow women to work at night from home. So that's something which is a little bit sex specific. And then NASSCOM also seeks furloughs and temporary layoffs for surplus employees. So also seeking some, payment and compensation reprieve there. So that's broadly what the story is about. It's a shame Poonam couldn't walk you through it, as she tracks the sector a lot closer than I do. But switching gears a little bit to stimulus. This is perhaps one of the most important developments this morning. Japan has approved a $1.1 trillion stimulus package. Now, based on what we've seen in global markets after the US had their $2 trillion stimulus package, there was then another $3 trillion stimulus package that was sent to the House. These funds really keep the markets upbeat because ultimately they flow into securities, they flow into bonds, they flow into government securities. So they really move your benchmark indices higher. And definitely yesterday what we saw in our index was the fact that the US market had rallied. We took cues from that. So this is keeping the entire Asian pack. This morning I know the Nikkei, the Kospi, the Topics, all were up on this news. So perhaps India will also claw a little bit of those gains in this morning. We'll wait and watch when the market opens. But just goes to show also the extent to which a country is willing to commit to its stimulus package, far in excess of 10-20% of GDP. The same can't be said for a lot of other countries. Now switching gears a little bit. Amid tensions along the line of actual control, followed by an aggressive commentary in the Chinese medias, China's India ambassador, Sun Weidong, denied the idea of countries being a threat to each other. Instead, with a peaceful, the ambassador suggested that the differences must not get in the way of the bilateral cooperations. My colleague, Srinjoy Field, came through with this report earlier. Let's listen in.
Yes. For the last 3 weeks, there has been tension on the line of actual control in the Galwan Nala area in Ladakh. There has been trouble because India was building a road and other infrastructure. The Chinese said this was Chinese territory. India could not do it. India said it was Indian territory and it had to be done. So naturally, this led to tension, couple of scuffles, escalation of troops on both sides. So several thousand troops are still virtually eyeball to eyeball along the line of actual control in the Galwan area. But there is a sign of optimism. The Chinese ambassador has spoken, and importantly, people in Indian government have said that there is a sense of optimism, that there have been discussions at the ground level, at the military level, at the diplomatic level, in Delhi, in Beijing, and it appears that without compromising Indian territory, this can be sorted out.
All right, well, that's some geopolitical tension. Thanks for bringing us that, Srinjoy. Now, let's get you an update of what's happening with Corona, the top 5 headlines for this morning. The centre is set to redefine migrant workers. So there's a lot of change expected in that area, and it's one of the major pillars of reform which numerous big voices have come forward and spoken about. The Maharashtra COVID death toll surges by 105. That's in Maharashtra alone, let me remind you. 6,000 new cases across the country and 185 deaths. So the cases have come down a little bit, but the death rate quite high. Mumbai's positivity rate jumped 6-fold to 18%. So again, within Maharashtra, Mumbai is definitely its own little mini epicenter of the coronavirus. And Karnataka wants to reopen malls and Goa wants to reopen eateries. So 2 areas where perhaps there's a less influx of cases, looking at some reopening measures. Let's also now bring you a very interesting development. This has happened at times before. The Locust plague, which is currently hitting Punjab and now creeping into Maharashtra. After the continued devastation of COVID-19 and the cyclone Amphan, the last thing we really needed was a vicious swarm of desert locusts that are sweeping over northwest India. How perilous can they be to India's food security and its limping economy? Here's a story that puts India's locust challenge in perspective. Let's listen in.
The desert locust, a short-horned grasshopper, not vicious when alone and not known to harm humans, but in swarms, they damage large amounts of crops. Over the last few days, these swarms have been sighted in the urban areas of Rajasthan, which is unusual because they are generally found near farmlands. But they have also been spotted in parts of Madhya Pradesh and the Vidarbha region of Maharashtra. The first swarms this year were sighted along the India-Pakistan border on the 11th of April, which is still months ahead of their usual time of arrival, which is between July and October. Since these insects can travel about 150 kilometers a day, they could wipe out tons of food grain and vegetables meant for human consumption. And that could have an impact on food inflation. With an economy already on the edge, locust attacks on farms could mean fresh trouble. A square kilometer of farmland could have an infestation of anywhere between 4 and 8 crore locusts, so their termination is quite a task for the authorities. Already, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization is warning India of an impending locust invasion that is likely to get severe by next month. Efforts are on now to control the situation by spraying insecticide on the night resting places of locusts, like on trees. And while the rabi crop has been harvested for the most part in India, since locusts lay eggs just after the monsoon, it's the kharif crop that is now in danger of large locust attacks, which could translate into a huge challenge to India's food security at a very tough time.